There's a certain kind of stillness you notice in some people when pressure rises. The room tightens, voices sharpen, decisions hover in the air, and while everyone else seems to speed up, they do something unexpected. They slow down. Their breathing steadies. Their movements become smaller, not larger. It doesn't look dramatic, it almost looks ordinary, but it changes the outcome. Modern portrayals of warriors tend to focus on intensity, adrenaline, fury, the final clash of steel. When we think of the samurai, we imagine flashing blades and decisive duels, moments suspended in cinematic tension. What often gets reduced to aesthetic, calm faces, measured gestures, quiet rituals, was not decoration, it was design. The mental discipline of the samurai was not a poetic accessory to combat. It was the method that made combat survivable. And there's more going on here than most history books suggest. During the long instability of Japan's Sengoku period, when rival daimyo fought for territory and influence, a warrior's greatest vulnerability was not physical weakness, it was emotional disruption. Fear could fracture formation, anger could break timing, hesitation could cost a life. In that environment, the mind was trained as deliberately as the body. Samurai were shaped by practices that appear almost contradictory to violence. Zen meditation, influenced by schools like Rinzai, encouraged direct awareness of the present moment without attachment to outcome. The concept of mushin, often translated as no mind, did not mean emptiness. It meant a state where action flowed without the interference of panic or overanalysis. This wasn't mysticism layered on top of warfare. It was neurological economy before the term existed. In a duel, there is no time to debate options. Thought must not lag behind movement. By training attention to remain stable under stress, samurai reduced the delay between perception and response. The sword moved when the opening appeared, not after fear had argued with it. Figures like Miyamoto Musashi, writing later in the Book of Five Rings, emphasized observation over aggression. He described watching the opponent's rhythm, detecting subtle shifts in stance or breath. Victory, in his framing, came not from overpowering the enemy, but from disrupting their mental balance first. The battle was psychological long before it was physical. Even the tea ceremony, often associated with refinement rather than combat, played a role in cultivating composure. Within the quiet ritual of preparing tea, every movement was intentional. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted. In a society where a warrior could be called to violence at any moment, this kind of repetition trained the nervous system to remain precise under scrutiny. It was rehearsal for control. The structure of samurai life reinforced this discipline. Loyalty to a lord was not simply emotional allegiance, it was survival within a strict hierarchy. Reputation determined position. One moment of visible panic could echo through a clan. Control of expression was therefore strategic. A composed face was armor. This is why accounts from the Edo period often describe warriors facing death with startling calm. Seppuku, ritual suicide, is frequently framed in moral terms, but beneath that layer was something more practical. A warrior's final act was about controlling narrative. Even in defeat, composure preserved honor for the family and reinforced the social order. In a rigid hierarchy, perception was power. It's important not to romanticize this. The samurai method was not inherently noble or cruel. It depended on context. In a fragmented feudal system where alliances shifted and betrayal was common, mental steadiness was as necessary as steel. Other cultures, under different pressures, produced different forms of resilience. Every era designs the mindset it requires. The samurai happened to cultivate stillness as a weapon. There is a quiet paradox in this training. By learning to detach from fear and even from life itself, a warrior gained extraordinary clarity. If death was already accepted, hesitation diminished. That freedom could be decisive. But detachment carries a cost. A life built on emotional restraint can narrow expression beyond the battlefield. The The same discipline that grants precision in crisis may distance a person from spontaneity in peace. Control can become habit, and habit can become identity. When Japan entered the relative stability of the Tokugawa shogunate, many samurai found themselves administrators rather than fighters. The mental architecture forged for chaos had to adapt to bureaucracy. Some transitioned seamlessly, applying the same composure to governance. Others struggled with a world that required negotiation more than readiness. The method that once ensured survival had to be reinterpreted, and yet the underlying principle endured. In modern contexts, we still see echoes of this training. Leaders who remain steady in crisis often shift outcomes without raising their voice. Negotiators who regulate their own reactions shape conversations before the other side realizes it. Athletes speak of entering a state where time feels altered and action feels effortless. The vocabulary changes. The structure of attention does not. The samurai did not eliminate fear. They reduced its authority. Through repetition, ritual, and philosophical framing, they created a buffer between stimulus and reaction. That buffer was their advantage. It is tempting to see this as an exotic discipline unique to a distant culture, but it is, in essence, a refinement of something universal, the human capacity to shape internal response even when external conditions are unstable. Power has always favored those who can manage themselves before attempting to manage others. Understanding how samurai trained their minds reframes the image of the warrior. The blade was visible. The mental architecture behind it was not. And it was that invisible structure, built through meditation halls, strict codes, and daily ritual, that allowed them to step into uncertainty without fracturing. History often highlights the duel. It rarely lingers on the quiet room where the mind was prepared for it. But that preparation was the strategy. If this shifts how you see the samurai, there are other methods hidden in plain sight across different civilizations, ways minds were shaped long before battles began, and long before anyone realized the true contest was internal. There is more beneath the surface.